Hi friends, welcome back to The Classy Mommy. I'm Brittany and I'm glad you're here. Today I want to talk about something that really pulls at the heartstrings, and that is going back to work after a glorious, wonderful, spit up filled, cuddle filled maternity leave. Okay friends, my little baby girl, who's my second, is turning 1 next week. I can't believe it. So I had her during the summer. I had a glorious extended maternity leave, and I am so grateful that I worked with my administration, I worked with my school district. It all worked out. They so graciously allowed me to take off just a little extra time because I was really having a hard time getting ready to come back. And I know that not everyone has that experience. I am incredibly grateful. I got to be home with her for 4.5 months. Now, if you guys want to talk about preparing for financially for having leave, that's another video. But today I just want to talk about my experience and how I got through it, because it doesn't matter how long you're home with your baby, whether it's 6 weeks. I know some dear friends who've only gotten to have just a couple of precious weeks with their newborns before they just needed to go back. And, it doesn't matter if you have that or if you had an extended one like I do. I also know that some other countries, I'm in the US, but I know other countries you sometimes can have an extended leave as well. So my point is, it doesn't matter how long it is. Doesn't it just never feel like enough? Like you never get enough cuddles? Let's talk about it. Okay, you know me, I've got my notes here because I've been thinking about this, and I really gave myself this entire year, and then I'd come back to my notes and write down something else that really helped or something that, I was going through. And it's been 9 months since I went back to work. But it's a continual thing. Let's just be real life mommy minute, Some days it's awesome to take kids to childcare and be able to breathe for a minute. And then you get that mommy guilt, like, oh, why do I feel okay and like really good about dropping them off right now? And then there's the other flip side of the guilt, mommy guilt, where you're like, you don't want to be away from them, and you feel like if you're away, like they're not going to be cared for as well. There's just so much mom guilt, right? Anyways, I have really just through this year jotted down my thoughts, how I got through stuff. I've been chatting with some of my, closest friends who are starting to have babies as well. And whether you're a stay-at-home mom, work from the home mom, it's just hard being a mom. So let's chat about it. All right, so before we start, if you guys don't know, if you haven't watched many of my other videos, I have 2 kids, 3.5-year-old son and almost 1-year-old little girl. And I've experienced this 2 times. I've worked through pregnancies, having them. And if you guys want a video about what it's like to be a teacher, working with, as a teacher while you're pregnant, just let me know down below. So here's kind of what got me through. The first big thing I would say, and yes, I'm looking down at my notes, the number one thing I did with both of my returns to work was, and it's hard, we would practice our routine of getting up in the morning, getting ready, and leaving the house. And you know what, with one baby, first time mamas, like, it's not as bad because you're only taking care of one other little human. With 2 babies, it was harder. And I do want more children someday, so I can only imagine that it just gets like harder and harder to get out of the door. And my friends who have more kids than I do have definitely said that, yes, the more kids you add, it's not like addition, it's like multiplication of how hard it is to leave the house. So my biggest tip is, when you're getting ready to go back to work, whatever job you have, practice that routine and start establishing that routine for yourself and for your baby, no matter what age. So this last year when I went back to work, I had, my 4.5-month-old and a 2.5-year-old. So this was really important for my 2.5-year-old to start doing those routines. And also for me, just to figure out like what worked in the morning and what wasn't working in the morning, what helped us go faster and have more peace as we were getting ready for the day, and what did I need to like have prepared the night before. So if you guys haven't seen my Working Mommy morning routine video, I'll definitely link it down below. Watch it and you guys can see what we do with a 3.5-year-old and now 1-year-old. And if you have a baby, it looks different. When I first was starting this, I was still nursing my little girl in the mornings. So my husband would get the toddler ready and get kind of his breakfast and his morning chores done while I was nursing baby and trying to get myself ready. And then as soon as I was done nursing her, then daddy, my husband would take her and get her all dressed and ready while I was putting on my makeup. So we had a for sure routine then. And after my daughter self-weaned, then we had a different kind of routine where both me and my husband could be more hands-on in getting the kids ready together. I do have to say, I think the luckiest woman in the world. My honey does get up and help the kids get ready in the morning while I'm putting on my makeup, which is so helpful. And I know that not everyone has, you know, a super helpful partner in their life, but I really do. And it does make all the difference in the world. So before I went back to work, both times, me and my husband both work outside the home full time. So we really practiced, and I kind of led the charge, and he did it right along with me. We practiced what it would be like to get ready and go, and a couple times we actually got in the car and we just did a lap around the block, or getting in the car is a big accomplishment, and I love my coffee, so we would drive 10 minutes down the road and mommy would go get a special treat, like a reward for doing it, getting out of bed, getting all the kids ready and dressed fast and hopefully peacefully, But I think the more you do your routine, the easier it gets, especially if you have older children, toddlers, or school-age children. You probably know there's just something so secure for them about routine that they know what to expect. Tantrums, kind of go down. I mean, there's always days and there's moments, right? But just knowing what to expect in the morning is such a big deal for those older school-age or toddler children. And for baby as well, just getting up and establishing a pattern. We get up, we get dressed, or whatever your routine is, but just practice it so that you're not like pulling your hair out in the morning of and are disheveled, total emotional mess, and don't have all the things you need for childcare or even getting yourself to work. So practice it and plan ahead. I do a ton of prep for the next day, the night before. So anything my kids need for daycare and preschool, I get that all packed and put in the car. I have my breakfast and my lunch packed in my lunch bag in the fridge ready to go. I have, sometimes I even pre-make bottles the night before and I put them in the fridge and I can warm them up the next morning. I have my son's outfits all already pre-picked out that he can just pick which outfit set he wants. I've got my little girl's outfits all ready to go, just grab them and we're good. So I try to do a lot of stuff beforehand, so when we wake up in the morning, it's just it's simple and easy, and it takes a lot of those like decision points away, if that makes sense. Okay, my second thing I suggest is actually having a practice day with their childcare. So we've done three different kinds of childcare. The first time I went back to work, my oldest, my sister was actually able to watch him because there was about a month. I went back to work in April and my school gets out in May. So there's maybe like 4 or 5 weeks before summer started, and a lot of daycares and childcares weren't taking any babies at that time for just such a short amount of time. So my sister so graciously decided to take my little guy. She had a little break in her school schedule and she watched him for, about 4 or 5 weeks, and it was awesome. And I know that not everyone has that amazing luxury. It was so great to like ease my little heart going back into work because I knew that my son was getting loved and cared for by someone who truly did love him with her whole heart, and she's amazing. Soon after, when I went back to school in the fall, then he went to an in-home childcare, and it was fantastic. It was just like going to an auntie or a grandma's house and playing with other kids. And a bunch of my coworkers had kids there too. So definitely ask your colleagues and your coworkers if they have recommendations, because mamas are honest when it comes to the care of their babies. Like, they'll tell you the good, bads, and uglies. And if they say a place is great, then you can usually take their word that they've, truly had a great experience for their kids, because, what more do we care about in life than, taking care of our babies and making sure they're always safe and happy, right? So we did 2 different in-home childcares. They were fantastic. And this year we found a wonderful Christian preschool that's right next to my school. Their values definitely align with our family values, and they got so many amazing reviews from a lot of my colleagues and coworkers had kids go through there and said that it was just fantastic, emotionally, socially, and developmentally with their preschool program, that they go all the way down to even 3-year-olds are in the preschool program. So we felt super good about that choice. We did go there. We did have a tour. We met the directors and the teachers. We've had a really good feeling about it. We had a ton of peace about it. And then we had our kids go and do a practice day. And we made a really big deal about how fun it would be to go meet new friends and play in the swing set and go down the slide. And for my toddler, who had been at home, with mommy and a newborn, who weren't really that mobile, he was so excited to get out there and see friends and do recess and coloring, and he was just ecstatic. He was so excited to go, and he was so excited to come back. So it was a fantastic experience. My little tiny girl they tell me she had a great, first experience there. Of course, I wasn't there, but when they're just that teeny tiny, that little, I think the transition usually goes pretty smooth. It seems like that detachment stage kind of comes just a little bit later. For me and my kids, it was usually around like 9 months to 12 months where they really started noticing like, where's my mom? She's not in the room. And then the drop-offs kind of got a little bit harder. But at first, it was a lot easier for me to drop off baby because she was just happy and content. And it was harder for me to drop off toddler because he definitely knew that mommy was going away and he wasn't going to have mommy all day to himself. So practice day was wonderful. If your child care facility or home or wherever your kids are going, if they would allow you to do a practice day, I would definitely take advantage of it. And mamas, don't have guilt over it. Use that time to do some self-care, to take a nap, to kind of prep yourself for going back into the workplace, because no joke, it feels like, when you first go back, it can feel like you're trying to take a drink out of like a fire hose. It can feel really overwhelming. So take that time to just kind of prepare your mind and your heart and your emotions for, what's coming ahead. And can I just say, my number one thing out of, all these things I've jotted down to share with you guys is just give yourself grace. There's going to be awesome days. There's going to be miserable days. At least for me, that was my experience. It just was like a lot of highs and a lot of lows. And every woman is different. I didn't cry the first week going back, but I will tell you, I've cried more this most recent semester. So as my little girl's been like 9 months to 12 months, I've cried more and had more emotions. I think probably because she's noticing that mommy's dropping her off more now. And when I drop her off, then she cries. And every kid is different too. Every kid responds so differently. Some kids are like, yeah, see you later, mom. Some kids are like running out of the car, running to see friends, and they're like, bye, mom, totally like oblivious, like could care less, see you later, mom, and I've had that experience too. And I mean, that can make you cry even for like they don't miss me, and that's totally fine too. And then I've also had the days where like, my toddler or my baby girl, just like cling to you and cry like real huge tears, and they're feeling heartbroken, then you feel heartbroken, and then the mom guilt, and then sometimes you've had a really rough morning and your kids are having tantrums and you take them to their childcare, and you're like, oh my gosh, now I finally have a moment to myself, and then you feel guilt over feeling happy that your kids are being taken care of by someone else for a minute. It's just so real. Like there's so many emotions. I think that you can't go into returning to work with any kind of expectations on yourself, because you just don't know what it's going to feel like. If you've been married or if you've gotten married or had a wedding, my experience was like, I wasn't prepared for all the emotions I was going to feel that day, of like a ton of joy. And that was I had a wonderful wedding, a wonderful experience, but I wasn't prepared for it. And I am kind of a crier, but I didn't think I would be. And I remember as soon as the doors, we had 2 huge doors where we got married, and they opened up and the music was like just really dramatic. And my dad was walking me down the aisle. As soon as those doors opened up, I just started bawling like a baby. I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't think that I would. I wasn't sad. I was just like overwhelmed with emotion, right? So all I'm saying is you just don't know how you'll respond or how your kids will respond until you kind of get into it. And then like in my experience this last year, I was good. Some hard days until like the spring came and my little girl started noticing I was leaving, and she would cry every time I leave. And then I would like lose it on my 5-minute drive from their daycare to my work. It was just, and then I wasn't expecting that I would lose it at that point. I thought that I might have, had more tears at the beginning, but I didn't lose it till she started losing it. Anyways, all I'm saying is give yourself grace. You don't know how your kids are going to respond, how you're going to respond. And I have the most amazing, she's a friend now, but, child care provider for my little girl. And she just always reminds me, she says, you know what, your little girl cries when she sees you and she knows you're here and she wants you to hold her. But as soon as you turn the corner and you're gone, we give her a toy and she has her bottle and she starts playing. She's going to be just fine. And that just made me feel so much better, knowing that like, yes, my little girl, she loves me. She wants to be with mommy and I want to be with her too, but she's going to be just fine. And I know that she gets lots of loves. So give yourself some grace. It's really hard to know how you'll respond and how your kids will respond too. Okay, number 4, meal plan ahead, especially for that week. The last thing you want to be doing is, by the time you get babies awake, get them to where they're supposed to go in the morning, get yourself to work somewhat put together, then trying to jump in to work again really does feel like, yeah, trying to take a sip out of a water fountain that's actually a fire hose. And it's just overwhelming, just trying to jump in where everyone else is and, you know, their routine and their process, and trying to, you know, feel like you're competent, and the emotion. So by the time you get home, the last thing you want to do is figure out, oh, what should we do for dinner? So I would say freeze or plan ahead. Treat it kind of like maternity leave. You know that you're going to be exhausted, emotionally, physically worn out by the time you get home. All you're going to want to do is just cuddle those babies, and you should just sit on the couch, watch cartoons, do whatever is going to be relaxing for you, read stories, cuddle, get all the little cuddlies and kisses you can, soak them all in. You'll probably really be needing it, and you don't need to worry about dinner. So do easy freezer meals, or if you need to order pizza in, or if you have a spouse who's, you know, really supportive, let them take over dinner for that, you know, week or 2 weeks. But just plan ahead and don't be worried about dinner. Okay, now number 5, I want to talk more about work and less about kids, because you are preparing yourself to go back to work while they've still, you know, been carrying on as always, but you haven't been there, even if it's a summer break. Or, you know, however your year works out, whenever you jump back in, you've been really focused on baby, and your coworkers have been really focused on most likely work. So how do you make that transition from only doing mommy things to now you're a professional mommy again? I would say if your work has any kind of like weekly publication or email newsletter or whatever means to keep connected regularly, like my school has a weekly newsletter that my principal sends out. I would read that every single week. I wanted to know what was going on so that I could talk to those things, be prepared for what's going to be happening when I come back, know what's going on around the building. And in her newsletters was always, you know, dates and times for different things coming up, but also big events coming up and highlights of what was happening around the school. So I was able to read that even while I was nursing my baby, and I could just read my emails on my phone, and I just felt more connected, like when I talk to those coworkers and colleagues and friends again, I'm going to kind of have a pulse on what's been happening around the building. And with that, I really suggest connecting with your administrator and with your colleagues, if you have a team at work. So for me, that was my PE teacher, my librarian, my counselor, and some other of us who are kind of like little islands within the school. We've kind of made, like, we call ourselves the specialist team. So I kind of was connecting with them. I did meet up with them for lunch one day. It was the day that I took the kids to go visit their preschool for the first time. So I took that day to myself to just prepare myself. I think I even got my fingernails done that day. It was awesome. And it was just in leisure. I had lunch with those coworkers, and it was just so nice to be able to connect with them. We had emailed a little bit, and of course we're all like friends, you know, personally on Facebook. So, you know, they've been seeing pictures of my baby and my family, but it was just still really nice to have that connection with them. Now, I'm not saying you have to go to lunch with anyone before you go back, but for me, they were also, you know, personal friends, and it was just nice to be able to connect with them on a personal level before going back. And lastly, if you feel comfortable, if you have, you know, rapport with your classroom and your students, or if you're in a, you know, business workplace, if you have rapport with your colleagues, be prepared to share, you know, a picture or two. In my classroom, I'm a music teacher, you guys know that. So I see, you know, every class through the week, and I just had, maybe like a 5-second little snippet of my little girl giggling. And I just took it casually. I posted it on my personal Facebook for some family and friends out of state to see. And you know, I just pulled out that little 5-second clip and I showed them, because my students had seen my tummy get really big, and then I disappeared. And then I all of a sudden came back, you know, so I wanted them to kind of be that part of that process with me. And I told them just a little bit about her, and I showed some pictures and some pictures of, just a couple pictures of me and my kids, what we did while I was on leave. And I just connected with them. I didn't come in expecting that we could just pick up right where we stopped, because they hadn't seen me in months. And also last time they saw me, I, you know, had this huge baby tummy, and, you know, they had gone through that process with me as well, seeing my tummy get bigger, 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 being excited to hear what gender and getting excited to hear names. And then I disappeared. So, you know, I feel like they were just really excited to be part of that with me. And I feel like it really helped us connect with just my rapport with students as well. I felt like if I had not, you know, my kids might have been a little bit, you know, it just might have been a little bit rougher of a transition back. So anyways, those are my encouraging tips to you guys. I hope that something I shared encourages you guys and helps you guys. If you're watching this, you're probably getting ready to either have a baby or go back to work, or in whatever capacity that looks like. But, you know, I just want to leave you with this. My biggest encouragement is, as long as you're loving your babies and you're trying to do what you feel like is best for them within the parameters of your life and your circumstances, you can't go wrong. You really can't. So don't just take off expectations of what every other mom is doing, because every mom's just trying to do their best and everyone's lives is different. And give yourself a ton of grace. Every family is different. Every time you add a baby into your family, it changes dynamics. Your workplace is different than my workplace. You know, there's so many factors. Just give yourself some grace. And above all, Mama, you got this. All right. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching.